let's see how we get on today. So, as some of you will know, if you attend the group regularly, I went to India towards the end of the last week of May, first week into June, to sell our family property. You may not have known that bit, okay? And this story that I'm about to tell you actually started about 13 years ago when my dad died. My dad died in September 2011. And almost immediately after that, there was a falling out with my dad's sisters and their families around the family property. Now, the family property had been built by our mutual grandparents, so my dad's parents, and there were four siblings and then their families. And my dad was the legal owner of the house. When my dad died unexpectedly, his sisters felt that we, as the inheritors, myself, my mum, and my sister, should hand back the house, which we refused to do. Um, but that process where they had their expectation, we were pushing back, and some subsequent conversations that we had with some of them generated a great deal. Hi, Mickey, how are you? I'm just talking about what's been happening, giving a bit of background to what led to my ill health. Feel free to ask me questions as you go on. So that toing and froing with my family led to a lot of low vibration being generated. And the kind of low vibration I'm talking about is there was already grief because my dad had died. There was an additional loss because we were unable to find compromise with my dad's family. There was judgment. I was feeling judged. My mum and sister were feeling judged, but we were also judging them. There was also a lot of anger and rage involved from me because obviously I'm going to talk about what I generated as low vibration, um, and low transitional vibration because this is about my health journey. So, and then there was also things like I took on a lot of responsibility for this because I was trying to protect my mum and my sister. And for the last 12 years, we kind of had a year where we didn't do anything as we were just trying to sort out probate after my dad's passing. For about 12 years, we have been trying to sell this house. And for a variety of reasons, this house just was not selling. Anyway, we got to roll forward to 2024. I did some energetics with one of the members in this group who I often play with the energetics with. We have fun practicing and playing. And I actually, with the help of my friend, put in an energetic barrier between my cousins, my aunts, and the house to try and reduce their emotional pull for the house. And it had the most unexpected outcome, which was one of my cousins actually found our buyer. And the beauty of this buyer was he was known to the locality, and that was important to us because the road our house is on is a really small no through road, so everybody knows everybody. And the chap who's buying it with his family was really well known to us, really fair in his dealings, really lovely, lovely guy. Very impressed when I met him. So the sale's gone through, and you can imagine it's quite a big emotional upheaval for all of us, my cousins, us, my aunts, etc., because this house has been in our family for over 70 years. And so I came back. Hi, Kerry. I just gave a bit of background to what caused my ill health. So we sold the property. It actually sold on the 30th of May, and we flew back on the 3rd of June. Now, what some of you may not know is I'm going to just show you right here in the middle of my chest. You can see a plaster. There it is on the right side of my chest. I have for about 4 years had what I thought was a fatty cyst, a lipoma. Last year, I had to go to a breast check clinic because I had some concerns. There was no problems, but the registrar I saw said, yeah, it is a lipoma, nothing to worry about. And so I wasn't worrying about it. I got back on the 3rd. Within 10 days of coming back, the texture of the lipoma had begun to change. It had begun to become rough and then it became sore. And within the space of 4 or 5 days, it became a carbuncle, in other words, a boil, and it had several heads on it. And I'm not going to share, I didn't take any photos of that because it really was quite revolting, and I don't want to make anyone feel sick. But you can imagine it's right in the middle of the chest, it's almost above my heart, and it was incredibly painful. It was filled with lots of gunk, which was making me feel really unwell. And I was also simultaneously processing a lot of the emotions from that trip. I was feeling very bereaved again. It was almost like my dad had died again. And I was feeling really sad again. So processing all those emotions, and then I was also, this carbuncle had come up on my chest. And in addition to that, while I'd been in India, I'd done some really, really big energetic work to do with something else. And it had stretched me right to the limit of where I was energetically. I mean, I've grown from that, but at the time it was very, very difficult. And so when I returned from India, I was exhausted emotionally and physically and energetically. And it meant that I slept a lot and I had to be really careful about how I expended my energy. And I had to be a very physical human. So I'd be in the garden, I'd do my painting, I'd go talk to my husband, but I was sleeping a lot in between, right? So I just wanted to give you this as a background so that you understood how I ended up with this carbuncle. So the carbuncle arrives, and I go online and I check on the NHS app what to do about it. And the advice was basically use hot compresses to bring up the carbuncles to help ripen it. If it doesn't burst or it gets very hot or you get chills, then you need to go on antibiotics. And I was like, I don't think I want to do antibiotics. After everything I've been through physically and emotionally, I felt like antibiotics would just push my body over the edge. It was pretty dreadful, Mickey, I'll be honest. And so I was like, I'm writing a book about using energetics. The least I can do is be authentic and start doing those. And so I connected with Athalia and I asked her, what do I need to know about this? Why have I got a carbuncle in the middle of my chest, almost over my heart? What is this about? And so she began to show me how my rage and my grief and my judgment and all the other low vibrations that had gone from being transitional to stored vibration within my physical body had festered and had become putrid and basically was pussy, right? It was disgusting. And she began to show me what truths I needed to release. Okay. So I had quite a lot of truths to release around this. I can see that the signal's not great. So hopefully it will settle down. Not sure why it's not doing well, but hopefully it'll settle down. So some of the truths I had to sort of kind of align myself to, and I say this because align to because some of them were not easy for me to just go, yeah, I can feel that truth, right? Some of them tested me a little bit and needed a bit of time. I needed to think about it, needed to have a conversation with Athalia about it. And so some of the truths I had were around I love myself and I love myself enough to free myself from that responsibility. That was a really easy one for me to no longer take responsibility for other people and their emotions and looking after them. It was a boundary I was drawing back. So I wasn't expending energy on looking after them when now we didn't have a house, I don't have to do that. So that was a really big one. There were truths around people knowing or behaving in a way that was appropriate for them at that time because they didn't know any better. That one I found really, really hard to accept because I had lived in India with some of these people and I felt that they had known me. And if they knew me at all, then they would know that I am not greedy. I am not avaricious. I am really kind of how you see me. I'm really poor at masking. I mean, anyone who knows me well kind of reads my face and they pretty much know what I'm thinking. That's who I am. And so when I was feeling really judged by my family and found wanting and found to be, they were saying basically you're greedy and you want the money and you have no family loyalty and you don't care about us and you don't care about your grandparents. How can you do this? You clearly didn't love your dad. I mean, this was some really heavy kind of stuff being thrown at us. And me in particular, it felt like. So when I got that truth from Athalia of, they behaved in a way where they didn't know any better, I really struggled to align with that. But given time and her love and patience, I did do it. And actually, in the space of about 4 days, I had done a lot of this energetic work. I was literally going to bed and just churning out these truths for myself. The truth that really, really had the biggest impact for me was the truth is, I will accept you for who you are. And this was a really, really powerful truth for me because it basically said, it acknowledged that in feeling judged by them, I was also judging them back, right? I was judging them as being uncaring, as being hateful, as being dishonest, and being greedy. Actually, all the things they were accusing me of, I was judging them back. But when I said and I accepted and I aligned to, the truth is, I'm going to accept you exactly as you are today. What happened was that I felt this enormous freedom happen. I could feel it like a wave. It was like I released myself from a vice, right? Because in their judgment, I'd felt a lot of shame as well. But as I released my judgment of them, I released myself from their judgment of me. I shook it off. I was like, I'm no longer accepting your judgment. I don't really care what you think about me because I know who I am. I know I'm a good person. I know that I'm not doing what I'm doing from a place of greed. I'm doing it from a place of practicality, of a home needs to be lived in, and being lived in for once a year for 8 weeks is not enough. And so I then felt this enormous weight lift off me, and I felt really, really much, much better. So over 4 days, I intensively did the releasing process. So if those of you who have awakened or have read Believe, you will have read the releasing process in there, and you will have seen in there how to do that. And for those of you who haven't, I recommend you get Believe. It's available on Amazon, and you practice the releasing process. It honestly frees you up from a lot of stuff. So what happened was also in this, I did not resist this process at all. I understood that in order to change what was had appeared physically in my chest, I had to change and surrender to a new version of me. I had to let go of those old beliefs. I had to let go of those old judgments. And I had to actually put my trust and my faith in the energetics that I talk to you guys about most weeks. And I had to also put my trust and my faith in my physical body, in Athalia, in God. These were things I had to do. And so I surrendered to that process. So that meant even as I was saying those truths, if the thought popped into my head, well, is this going to work? I don't know if it's making a difference. I just went, I acknowledge that thought, but I'm not going to engage with it. I'm going to trust. I'm going to trust that what I have learnt and what I'm putting into practice is going to make a difference. And the thing I'm talking about in my book, and I talk about to you guys, is if you change the energy, the physical must change. So, in the space of 4 days, so the carbuncle appeared in 4 days, and then 4 days later, so 8 days in total, the carbuncle burst. And It burst really easily. I didn't have to do anything to it. It literally just burst. And so it's been just coming up to a week now that it burst. Um, I didn't use Enigma at all, Mickey. I don't use Enigma anymore. It is old school to create the truths, but for me, truth creation works really, really well. But I didn't want to use. I mean, when I went to my team and said, "What is the best way to do this?" For me, it was truth creation. For you, it might be using Enigma. It could be for Kerry and I were both in domain leaders. It could be domain, could be it, right? So you have to use the energy flow that is right for you. Okay. I'm talking about truth creation because this is how I did it. Okay. So within the space of 8 days, the carbuncle had appeared and then it had burst. And I instantly felt better because I'm releasing all that poison out of my system. And that poison was made up of energy, remember? It's made up of all the things that don't serve me anymore, that aren't aligned to my vibration anymore, that aren't me anymore, right? I've done so much energetic work in the last 12 years. I am literally a different person to that girl who lost her dad 13 years ago. I'm so different. I cannot even begin to tell you. I think if I met myself from 13 years ago, she'd be like, "Who are you?" Because that's how different I am. And in my journey, what's been happening most recently is my physicality has begun to catch up on where I am energetically. So releasing shame is something that was really important for me. In releasing the burdens of responsibility and embracing freedom, one of the things I could say to my physical selves, because after the truth creation, there was then this conversation I need to have with my body. So, one of the things I could say to my body is, I don't need to be broad shouldered anymore. I can actually have a slimmer frame because I'm not carrying that responsibility anymore. And one of the things about your cells is that they're hyper intelligent. They listen to what you're saying to them. My friend Jenny today said the best thing, which is you are the greatest influencer on your life. Well, you are also the greatest influencer on your body. Your body's listening to your thoughts, it's feeling your feelings, and it is reacting to it. So, my body and I have for the last week been having these most beautiful conversations of my admiration for my body. I mean, look how clever my body is, right? For 12 years, it's stored this low vibration, but it hasn't actually allowed it to affect me in any obvious way. It then corralled all that low vibration into the lipoma in my chest, and then, as soon as I released the main cause of it, the house, it went, right, we don't need to hold on to this anymore. Let's let it go. Now, admittedly, the carbuncle was a bit harsh. I'm not saying that was an enjoyable pleasure, but I'm full of admiration for my body because it just reacted bang, 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 and got rid of this stuff out of my body. So, my body and I have been having this really lovely two-way conversation where I'm telling my body how grateful I am for it. I'm grateful to my cells. I'm grateful to my lymphatic system and my immunity for helping me. I asked my cells, what do you need to help you heal from this carbuncle? And I really quickly got, we need vitamin C and we need I knew I needed vitamin D from my trip to India because I'd had some blood tests done, and I needed vitamin B, it said. And actually, yesterday it said, we want some magnesium now. So I'm going to add that in, right? This is a conversation with my cells, and you guys can all achieve this, right? You have to be willing to have the conversation and then listen to what comes back to you. So I also had a conversation with God about what was going on, and I actually gave God all those low vibrational feelings and emotions that were contained in my carbuncle. I just went to him, do you know what? I don't want to have to work through these individually. So I'm going to give you all of this. I'm going to give it to you in the most loving way I can, and you can deal with this. Now, to me, God is unconditional love. So all those low vibrations will be transmuted and changed into something more high vibrational. For any of you that have experienced family breakdowns, divorces, abuse, really bad arguments, anything like that, you've been bullied, anything like that, you could actually gather those feelings from yourselves and give them to God. And the relief you'll feel, you're not carrying it in your physical body anymore. It's not part of um, your physicality anymore. Yeah, it is. I agree, Kerry. It is more powerful because my intention was not to take antibiotics. I will say, by the way, I'm not against antibiotics or conventional medicine. My decision was based on it's Friday today. I'm going to do my energetics over the weekend. If it's no better by the Monday, I will speak to my surgery about getting antibiotics because I knew I had a really busy week coming up. I wasn't feeling great and I didn't want the pain any longer than I had to. But I didn't need to take those antibiotics because the energetics worked and I surrendered to those energetics. Okay. So 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 the steps I took essentially were connect to Athalia, find out what the best way for me was to release those emotions and that low stored vibration. So for me it was truth creation. Number two was surrendering to the process. Number three, being really clear that if I didn't get a good outcome, I would go to the GP if I needed to for antibiotics. Number four was talking to my body and giving God all those emotions. So I didn't have to work through them all, just kind of saying to him, here you are, you do this. And number five of the process was actually saying to God, can you help me through this process? So allowing his love into my physicality. And this for me was really important. Many people, and I'm definitely one of those, I did a lot of talking to my body, I did a lot of talking to God, but very little listening and allowing and receiving back. And what this episode has taught me is when I listen to my body and I allow God to love me in his unconditional way, pretty much anything's impossible, right? So what's happened since then? The carbuncle is still not fully healed. It is healing. I did go to Domain, and Domain gave me some things to do as well, which I've enacted, energetically enacted, which is helping with the healing of the carbuncle. But what has happened is I've lost a little bit more weight. My shoulders don't look quite as broad. I've lost a little bit of weight. I'm still really tired, so I'm still sleeping a lot. And I am getting back to work, but actually, it's going to be about 4 weeks before I'm working at a proper pace again. Today was one of the first days in ages where I've been able to go to my book and do some work on it. And there's a deadline for that because I need to get it to the editor quite soon. Um, but I felt able to do that. And that has come about because I'm not exhausted from all those emotions. Other things that have happened is it's allowed me to go to Bryony, who's a member of this group, and ask for a somatic workout to help me release other emotions that are stuck in my body. It's really shown me the power of stuck emotions. And, but it, my truth creation and the surrender to God and the levels of surrender I was doing to the process has actually released up some other things. Hey, Jennifer. Oh, thanks. That's really nice of you to say, lovely. So I want you guys to really, the reason I'm sharing this journey with you, and I didn't have to, but I really, really wanted you to understand the power of energetics. And I'm never, ever going to dismiss conventional medicine because it does have a place in our human physical journey. But if you can allow yourself to use things you've been taught by me and other mentors to change the energy, to release the low stored vibration, to understand that when you have a pain in your body or stiffness in your body or a carbuncle or a migraine, it's your body telling you that your alignment is out. It's your body saying to you, you need to do something here. Some energy work is required. If you can do that and surrender to that process, you might just reduce the need for conventional medicine, right? So the need to take antibiotics or to have an operation. And by the way, One of the things I was shown when I was looking at the energy of this carbuncle was it was actually beginning to wreak havoc. Those emotions were beginning to wreak havoc on my physical body. They were affecting my sugar balance, so my body's ability to manage the sugar balance. This, despite being vegetarian and doing intermittent fasting and really changing up how I live and how I eat, right? It was still causing havoc. It was causing water retention problems. It was causing pain in my body. There was lots of things that were beginning to go wrong. And if I hadn't dealt with these energetics, the carbuncle would actually have become cancerous. That's what I was clearly being shown. And I was like, wow, okay. If ever I needed a motive to get on with this, that would be it. But actually, they didn't show me the consequences of not doing it till a couple of days after I'd started. So I want you to understand that you are all capable of doing these energetics, right? I'm not special. What I am is someone who's dedicated to energetics and I practice them daily. I rarely do anything without checking what the energy is. Um, I today I spoke to my lovely friend Jenny and I was talking to her about some doubts I was having regarding the book, and we just felt into the flow of the energy, and it was like, oh, you just need to understand you're feeling a bit of fear. The other day, I went into central London and I had an unexpected bout of anxiety. And I was like, what is that? I don't get anxiety. And again, I felt in, and it was newness that was making me feel a bit agitated. So I could soothe that, right? Just said to Athalia, can you flow me some love, please? um, if I want to, I've been on the tube before and there's been a problem on the tube and we've been told we're going to be stuck in a tunnel for half an hour. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I've got places to go and people to see. So I connect with Athalia again and go, okay, what is the problem? Can we fix it? Can we help them fix it? Right. And so one time she showed me it was a switch that needed flipping. So I was like, okay, can you connect to the higher self of the engineering team that are nearest the switch? And sure enough, in 10 minutes, we were on our way, and I wasn't late for the thing I was going to. You have, all of you, the ability to do this stuff. You just have to apply it, right? And actually, I was saying to someone, um, most people are very passive in their relationships with their higher selves and with their energetics. What I'm trying to show you through this, relating this story to you, is you don't have to be passive. You can choose to be proactive. If you want to change jobs or you want to meet someone, follow the flow of the energy. It will never steer you wrong. It may not steer you in a straight line, but it will never steer you wrong. Follow the flow of the energy. Release your limiting beliefs, however you choose to do that. Feel good in your body, feel good energetically. I have so much love, weirdly, for my carbuncle. And it is weird, right? Who has love for a boil? But I have love for it because of what it's got me to do and how it's got me to change and how it's got me to surrender. I love my body. It is so powerful in what it's teaching me and how it's helping me. And it's helping me create a new body, one that's healthier, that's going to be even slimmer, that's going to be stronger, that's going to be more what I want it to be, right? So I can enjoy this physical life and do the work I'm here to do with more ease. So this is what I want you guys to really take away from my story is you have the power to do exactly what I've done. You need to trust and surrender to the process. Okay. Let me just quickly go to your comments and I'll read the cards. So let me know if you want a card. So the other thing I'm going to say, Mickey, about old school, right, is just because it's old school doesn't mean it's not relevant sometimes, and sometimes it's the simplest and easiest thing to do. And for me personally, simplest and easiest is always the best way in. I don't like to overcomplicate it. I found for me, this is not true for everyone else who's doing Enigma, but for me, doing Enigma was not simple and easy. I found it physically really demanding. And for the 3 months I was in the program, or however long the course was, I was physically really unwell for a lot of it. I don't want to experience that as a daily thing. So that's why, when for me, simple and easy are old school truths. Okay. Thank you, Kay. You're very, very kind. Yeah, thank you, Kerry. This is it, right? If you can surrender and allow yourself to follow the flow of the energetics, you get peace, you get freedom. I feel so free of responsibility, and responsibility has been a byword in my life since I was really young. I felt responsible for keeping other people happy. I felt responsible for not rocking the peace. I felt responsible for being the person other people needed me to be. That's not authentic, and that means I had poor boundaries, and I would extend myself in ways that were not reciprocated, that were not a circle of love, and were not loving for me either. Right? By saying, and the way I did that responsibility thing, just to help you guys, if you want to do something like this, was I went to the Chamber of God with Athalia. I asked all my family, including my mum, my sister, my dad, my grandparents who are passed, um, my aunts, my cousins, all on my dad's side, everyone to do with my dad's side of the family who were directly affected by the sale of the house. I asked them all to show up in the Chamber of God with their high selves. And then I just said to them, is I love you all, I accept you all, but I am no longer going to be responsible for you all. And I say this with great love and affection and respect for you all. It is now time for you to take responsibility for your actions, your behaviors, your thoughts. I'm responsible for my behaviors, my thoughts, and how I am going to conduct myself going forward. And even in that, I wasn't really interested in what their response was, but in that act of saying it to them and giving it back to them and drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is now my boundary, I felt so much freedom. And it's showing up in my life in lots of different ways. Like, I'm not trying to overparent or overwife. I don't know if that's a word, probably not a word, but my husband's going through a job search, and historically I'd have tied myself in knots trying to help him. No, I'm giving him space to figure it out himself, right? I don't feel a need, I'm in various groups, I don't feel a need to show up and help people in a way I used to feel. I used to feel an obligation to do that. No, now I'm showing up if it's love for me first. That is a completely different energy than showing up in responsibility and obligation. So this is why I want you to understand the power of the energetics and how that freedom is available to you all. Okay, you watch this. I want you to really spend a bit of time connecting to your physical bodies. Ask questions. What would you like to drink? What would you like to eat? Is there something I can do that will make you feel happy? Would you like to move in a different way? Would you like to sleep or rest? There's a difference between sleep and rest, right? Rest is when you can lie on your sofa or your bed and not really be asleep. Sleep is when you're actually asleep. Would you like me to go for a walk, or would you like me to connect with someone and have a really great conversation? Would you like me to change what I'm wearing? What would you like me to do? Would you like me to use my imagination and think about what we're heading towards and what we would like to feel like and look like? This is what your body's asking you to do, and it's asking you to do it in the most loving energy that you can manifest for yourself. And it's asking you to give your low stored vibration to God and let it go. Literally, let it go. You don't need to carry this stuff anymore. The body's done an epic job. It is a magnificent physical container. Love it. Learn from it. Work with it. And notice how life changes. So, sending you all loads of love. Thank you for listening to my story about my carbuncle. And I will hopefully see you next week.